First thing I want to start with is that I am so happy Coda won Best Picture at this year's Academy Awards. This is such a great movie, as you've all heard me say before. I do hope that you go on to Apple TV Plus and check out this great film. I'm telling you, for just even the 1 month subscription, there's a lot of other great content on there too. No, this is not a paid advertisement for Apple. Even for just a 1 month subscription, it is worth it to check this movie out. It is fantastic. To switch gears for the focus of today's episode, Kenneth Branagh probably has to be one of the happiest people in Hollywood right now. Is it because of his Oscar-winning film Belfast? He actually did win Best Original Screenplay for this film. Nope, I'm not focusing on that today. That film did really well. I have not seen it yet. I've heard a lot of good things. I definitely want to check it out. It is available to rent on all platforms right now. That is not what I'm going to be focusing on. To me, he seems like a studio favorite as a director to handle almost any kind of franchise. Disney hired him to do the very successful live-action adaptation of Cinderella. Paramount brought him on to do the adaptation of Jack Ryan's Shadow Recruit. But what I'm focusing on today are actually the collection of Agatha Christie stories about the Belgian detective Hercules Poirot. In 2017, Kenneth Branagh did the adaptation of Murder on the Orient Express, and the one I'm focusing on today is his follow-up, Death on the Nile. Let's talk for a minute. This film, the score I'd give this film is a 7.5 out of 10. The pros. Kenneth Branagh definitely has found his groove with doing these kind of movies. I actually did like this one a lot more than Murder on the Orient Express. There were some things I remember with that movie in 2017 where he did this one overhead shot that just followed the characters for a long time, and it was really nauseating to look at, and that shot was held for what felt like an eternity. But here, it seems like he's more comfortable with the storytelling, with unfolding the mystery. The opening scene of this movie is very creative, and it does kind of give you more of an insight into Poirot and why he is the way he is. It's something that is followed throughout the movie. Another great part of this movie is the cast. So you have Kenneth Branagh himself, Annette Bening, Russell Brand, Gal Gadot, Armie Hammer, and this might be the last movie that he's in, Rose Leslie, bunch of great actors in this. And the thing about this movie is that it's very over the top on purpose. But then I also remembered the versions of Poirot which were adapted in series format for channels like the BBC, and that's just the style of the show. It's kind of over the top. You're either used to it and it's your cup of tea, or it's not. Branagh does a great job of sticking to the source material. I think people who are very loyal followers of Agatha Christie are going to like this kind of adaptation. You know how many novels there are for the Hercules Poirot series? 33 novels. Oh, and there's also 2 plays and 50 short stories. This movie was also very lucky because it started and finished filming in 2019. It started in September 2019 and finished in December of 2019. So why is this movie lucky? First reason is by filming and finishing in 2019, all of production, with exception of some post-production, was wrapped up before the COVID-19 outbreak. The other reason where this film was a little bit lucky is that by both starting its filming and finishing in 2019, it was not part of the huge mess of Disney acquiring Fox Film and TV Studios. This movie was released under the 20th Century Studios label. At this point, most of the acquisition had already been accomplished by the time this movie was starting and finishing production. Now, the film did have to be delayed a few times for its release because of the pandemic, but at least the production and its distribution were not part of those problems. And by the way, I do need to include this one really important positive. Mr. Branagh, I don't know if having this movie have a running time of 2 hours and 7 minutes is why studios like 20th Century, Disney love you, but I can tell you, for myself, as a moviegoer, 2 hours and 7 minutes, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is not a Marvel-length movie, which is 2 hours and 45 minutes on average, or like the DC Warner Brothers movie of The Batman, which is 3 hours. Although I really like that movie. That movie's really good. You don't really feel the 3 hours, except for the last 20 minutes of that movie. Yes, perfect running length. Thank you. Now for the cons with this movie. So I do like this movie better than the 2017 Murder on the Orient Express. There is a mystery that has to be solved and there are twists and turns, but I'm just still kind of surprised for like an Agatha Christie story, and Poirot, who's always a very interesting character. Just feels like the fun is kind of taken out of this movie a bit. I think part of that is also due to the fact that some of the twists, the turns, and the reveals are overly complicated in the story of this movie. And yeah, that does kind of take the fun out of it. Also, there is some really, really bad CGI in this movie. The visual effects could have been a lot better. Overall, though, I do think the fan base of Hercules Poirot and Agatha Christie are going to be very satisfied. Death on the Nile will be available in the United States, streaming on the Hulu platform. Thanks for listening.